The grave dangers of believing in aliens. Karl Rahner, a theologian very influential during Vatican II, famously posted that aliens were possible. While Father Karl certainly had some good things to say, which I'm not disputing, it should be noted in considering this particular question that he is perhaps best known for his heretical teachings by which he supported artificial contraception and women's ordination. He said, "It cannot be proved that multiple incarnations in different histories of salvation is absolutely unthinkable." Of course it's unthinkable, Father Karl. Salvation history is just that. Salvation history, not a salvation history, or our salvation history, or one salvation history. The phrase has no qualifiers because it needs no qualifiers. It enjoys a categorically and absolutely spatio-temporally, universally unique status. It is the only salvation history, and it is everyone's salvation history. However, if one is merely a theologian and has forgotten what is infinitely more important than advanced theology, namely basic Christian common sense, then this absurdity is indeed quite thinkable. The current Vatican astronomer, Giuseppe Tanzella-Nitti, tragically goes even further, claiming that discovering alien civilizations will require us to conduct a rereading of the Gospel in light of the new data. He is far from alone in the Vatican in believing in aliens who will, or may, require us to completely reread our faith and fundamentally change our theology. Can you not see how diabolical this is? There are no aliens, but I do not doubt that the Antichrist or his forerunners will try to convince us that there are, and that, conveniently, he has contact with them, and maybe even can show them to us. And through this contact, he will strive to compel us to reread our faith, thus emptying it of its power, as St. Paul prophesied for these times. Have nothing to do with it. But the damage is, sadly, not restricted to when the aliens are introduced to us. The damage is being done right now. To even think that it is possible, as far as Father Giuseppe and many others in the Vatican and throughout the Church do, that something like contact with alien civilizations might one day require us to completely reread the Gospel and revise our theology, is to even now undermine the confidence and certitude we must have in our faith, as it is understood, as it is laid out in public revelation, as it is developed by sacred tradition, as it is authoritatively interpreted by magisterium. I'm not saying we should pretend we have it all figured out. We don't, and we never will. God is a great mystery, and we must stand in awe and humility before him and his creation. But maintaining a posture of humility and awe, as we ought, does not imply that we should be flexible with those truths which we should know to be true. The justification for saying aliens do exist or might exist is always the same. Given the incredible number of planets out there, it is likely, or at least possible, that life developed somewhere else as well. But the premises of such an assertion are nothing but patently heretical Darwinism. Life cannot develop if merely given enough chances to do so. It can only be created by God. It wouldn't matter if there were 1 trillion times as many planets out there as modern astronomers now think there are, and if the universe were 1 trillion times as old as they think it is. The chance of life developing would still be zero, mathematically, scientifically, and logically impossible, as demonstrated in Part 1 of The Crown of Sanctity. A few footnotes. I'm aware that there is one small passage in Maria Voltorta's writings that seems to speak of aliens. It's not the only error in her writings. I'm making no claims regarding Voltorta's authenticity here. Even authentic mystics' private revelations can, and often do, contain errors. I do not know much about Valtorta, so I cannot comment on her, but I do know that many people I love and trust regard her highly, so please don't take my insistence that she is wrong on one small thing as an attack on her or her mystical writings. Even St. Catherine of Siena's private revelations had at least one glaring error, that is, that Our Lady was not immaculately conceived. 2. I am also aware of the many claims of UFO alien phenomena. Although the vast majority of these can be explained by military testing, atmospheric phenomena, optical illusions, manipulated media, weather balloons, mentally unstable people seeing things, etc., it is also true that some testimonies are not so easily cast aside. I am not one to ignore what a person, who by all accounts appears trustworthy, insists that he himself directly observes. Indeed, we must take such testimonies seriously. However, when one reads these testimonies, they almost universally include elements of incredible darkness and evil. The people themselves who give the testimonies usually speak of some horrible, dark, evil feeling pervading them when they witnessed the UFO or the alien. Often heinous sexual things are described. All of this just confirms my thesis. Yes, there may well be alleged aliens, but again, they aren't aliens at all. Rather, they are demonic manifestations. This just redoubles the importance of rejecting the possibility of actual aliens, so that we may remain firm in our insistence to have nothing to do with these aliens when they appear. 3. Consider as well that any alien race would either be 1. Unfallen, or 2. Fallen, thus in need of redemption. If they were 1. Unfallen, then they would each be immaculate conceptions, which would itself be contrary to Catholic dogma on Our Lady being the only immaculate conception. If they were 2. In need of redemption, then this would be abhorrent, since they could not receive it. It is Catholic dogma that there is one and only one incarnation, which itself is necessary for redemption. 4. The typical Catholic response to this question these days, that is, well, there's no church teaching on this, so who knows, may not after all be accurate. Pope Zachary may indeed have condemned this notion. Here is an excerpt from Ireland and the Antipodes, the Hexadoxy of Virgil of Salzburg by John Carey. In the year 748, Pope Zachary, in a letter to St. Boniface, mentioned among other matters a complaint which he had received from the latter concerning an Irish cleric named Virgil, active at that time in Bavaria. As for his perverse and abominable teaching, which he has proclaimed in opposition to God and to his own soul's detriment, if the report of his having spoken thus be true, that is, that there are another world and other men beneath the earth, or even the sun and moon, take counsel and then expel him from the church, stripped of his priestly dignity. Now, the cleric in question, Virgil, did later become a bishop and was canonized a saint, so we can presume he recanted his view. Plenty of saints have believed errors and then recanted. Nevertheless, Pope Zachary evidently regarded this error of foisting the existence of other men in another world beneath the earth, or perhaps even on the sun and moon, as such an egregious opposition to God that it was abominable, a detriment to one's very soul, and a just cause for expelling this priest from the church and stripping him of his priesthood. Perhaps Pope Zachary was particularly condemning the ancient Irish pagan belief in elves who existed in fairy mounds underground. In any event, this condemnation clearly covers aliens as well. So, dear Catholics, weigh what we have here. On the one hand, an extremely strong denunciation in a papal letter of aliens as an abominable teaching, and on the other hand, Pope Francis making a verbal remark that he'd baptize Martians. Discerning which is the weightier teaching is not difficult. Obviously, I'm not claiming we can have certainty in Pope Zachary's condemnation merely from John Carey's work, here quoted, but we should presume its validity absent legitimate reasons to doubt it.